Hey guys, welcome back. So today we want to talk about a hot subject. Everybody's talking about it, and we decided to make a video ourselves, and that's the FRT triggers, or the forced reset triggers from Rare Breed. Also, there's another trigger out there that was marketed and sold as the WOT, or the wide open trigger, which operates on the same principle as the FRT trigger. So Jason's in studio with us here today.
Hey guys.
And we just wanted to talk a little bit about this because there's some confusion out there. And I think there's a lot of things that technically need to be said about the whole situation and the FRTs themselves. So the forced reset trigger is nothing new. I can't really talk about the company, but many years ago, probably close to 10 years ago, I had seen a forced reset trigger, had played with it. It was submitted to ATF for approval, and ATF will never puts anything in writing. ATF just said, look, it technically doesn't violate the statute, but nobody here is going to sign off on that and give you an approval letter. It got kicked upstairs and the product died. It went nowhere. The company walked away from it. Fast forward, and Rare Breed comes on scene. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the principals within Rare Breed is an attorney. And of course, they're staunchly pro 2A. Now, let's preface this conversation by saying the NFA is unconstitutional, illegal, and should be stricken. It shouldn't exist.
All right.
With that being said, the whole reason products like the FRT trigger or the Echo, which does have an approval letter from the ATF, from VOSTEC, the whole reason those products existed, the bump stocks, the whole reason those products existed was because companies were trying to find ways for people to enjoy their rifles without violating federal law, right? And many times the government has said, oh, this is fine. The ATF, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. Then they go, oh, never mind. Just kidding. It's not fine. And now we're going to go around and knock on doors and steal private property. And that's kind of where we're at with the FRT, right? So the FRT, by statutory definition, is not a machine gun. And any objective judge that looks at this case and then assuming that FRT presents their case properly in court and breaks down the mechanical operation of it, the statute simply says that the gun may only fire one time for one pull of the trigger. And that's precisely what happens with the FRT trigger. Now, the statute doesn't say that the mechanism can't force the reset. What does that mean? The mechanics of the trigger is that when the gun cycles, when you pull the trigger, mechanically it pushes that trigger back forward, thus resetting the trigger. So it mechanically pushes the trigger forward, resetting the trigger. You just keep applying pressure, and then when the mechanism goes closed, rechambers around, gets ready to fire, then that continued force fires the gun again. One trigger pull, one gunshot. Statutory definition of a machine gun is not met. And ATF knows this. They know this. They knew this a decade ago. They just don't like it. And therefore, we get into this whole rabbit hole of Chevron deference and the ATF being able to just make up laws whenever they feel like doing so. And then when they make up a law, they assign criminal penalties, which is unconstitutional. That's an act of Congress that's required for that. An agency, a bureaucracy, legally can't make up a law out of whole cloth. But the EPA, FAA, FCC, ATF, any of the alphabet agencies just do whatever they want. And they don't even care about court decisions. They'll violate those court decisions and do whatever they want because there's no accountability. And so that's kind of where we're at with the FRTs. Now, so ATF came out and said they're illegal, they're machine guns. And now what are they doing?
Oh, yeah. They're just going around knocking on doors, finding people. And, hey, so-and-so, no big deal. Nobody's in trouble. We just want, we see that you bought this, we would like to get this back or whatever it is, or know what happened to it or whatever it is.
Right.
All, officer friendly potentially, or there's some that come at you with, this brute, bullying tactic or whatever it is that they have. But they are going around collecting these things, and there has not been any decision made. How interesting is that?
Yep. So that's what's happening. I know it was taking place through, I'm part of GOA. I'm the state director. And so in our internal conversations, we found out that in my home state of Indiana, ATF has been going around knocking on doors. And there's been a lot of speculation as to how the ATF has gotten this customer information to go around and knock on doors. And I think the consensus is it came through a single seller on GunBroker that maybe ATF applied pressure to. And that's where they got at least a partial customer list because of that one seller on gun broker. The gun broker thing seems to be that common theme, but we as a community shouldn't start throwing each other under the bus using assumptions. Let's try to figure out what's actually going on. But the point is, ATF is going around. They're getting a customer list somewhere, at least a partial list, and they are going around knocking on the door and saying, hey, we have here that you purchased this on this date and you need to hand that over to us. If you don't, we'll come back with a warrant, and now we're going to charge you with an NFA violation. It's a machine gun in their view. Mm-hmm. And so now you have that choice of handing over your personal property. What do those things cost?
Oh my God, dude! In the beginnings, I want to say people were paying up to $500-$600 or something for
so
it. I mean, that's
not
an
insignificant
piece,
right? Yeah. So that's not insignificant, and they're just knocking on the door saying, "Hey, look, guys, we're getting out of here in 10 minutes. Just give us that property that we say is illegal. There's no law, but we've determined it to be a machine gun. Just go ahead and hand that over. But if you don't, we're coming back with the warrant, and you're going to prison." That is straight up Soviet era BS. I mean, that's not America, right? You don't have armed agents going to people's houses for products that are not in violation of any federal law and demanding you hand over your property, or else we're going to put you in prison under false charges. That is so abhorrent to me that it just makes me sick to my stomach. And that's just the precursor. I mean, that's just where it's starting. Because they're getting away with it now, where does this go in 10 years? Mm-hmm. Right?
This is the stuff that I want folks to even think about, right? So
it's bigger than the FRT.
Right, it is. This, again, I want to revert back to, I remember the bump stock thing, and we always told people it's not about the stocks. It's not
Precisely.
About the stocks, right? Don't think about, bump stocks are stupid, whatever. Just
not going to fall on my sword on that one.
Right, and it's like, it's not about the stock. It's about the precedent that's being set right now on that stock about what they're going to do.
No, it's what they did and how they went about it.
Thank you.
Yes.
But anyway, now we're looking at braces. There was a time, not now, but there was a time, I want to say last year, maybe even 2 years ago, they looked at braces again. You couldn't, if that thing touches your shoulder, it's a SBR or whatever it is, right? And then you had people cheeking them or whatever it is. And then it's like, well, I mean, if it does this and that, well, now it's intent and all this other stuff. And they kept flip-flopping and changing all over the place. And it's like, you've changed your opinion or whatever it is so many times that at this point, there's probably people out there that have no idea.
I just got an email yesterday asking me what the status of braces are. And I said, they're still legal. ATF at least 4 times has said that braces are legal and they're not stocks. Mm-hmm. ATF has also said, and this will apply to rare breed triggers, ATF has also said it's not within their purview to regulate accessories.
But yet we're going to drive around. We're going to use, tax resources and all this stuff to drive around all over the country to go pick up these FRT triggers.
Right. Under the threat of going to prison and wrecking your entire life. And a lot of Americans don't want to fall on that sword. If you have kids at home and a wife, they're giving you a choice. Hand over this product or we're going to destroy your whole family. Mm-hmm. And so people have to make that tough choice. And it all because the ATF woke up one day and said, you know what? This is a machine gun. Mm-hmm. And even though we know it's not, there's a precedent there. They know that conversation took place years ago. But you know what? Who's going to stop us? There's no accountability. ATF answers to nobody. We'll just go do this. What are they going to do? And that's precisely what they're doing. They're going around using Soviet tactics to intimidate, threaten American citizens for a product that isn't technically illegal.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that, I want folks to think about is I know there's a few attorneys out there doing videos about what you should do if the ATF knocks on your door, what you should say, what you should whatever. Those are great videos to take a look at and understand. But the other thing is there are people out there that bought these things or have these things or whatever it is. They can't afford an attorney.
Right.
Attorneys are not cheap. Mm-mm. It's not like you give them a few $100 and you're good to go. Right. It's thousands of dollars.
That's just to get started.
Have that.
If it goes to court, it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars.
And so now with inflation and everything going on, people have less and less and less money as time's going on. It is harder and harder to secure an attorney, plus a firearms attorney, a knowledgeable firearms attorney. So that's kind of good to be proactive and start looking in your area, or even using resources that we've referenced before for looking up attorneys that could help you in something like this. So something to think about going forward, because it drives me crazy seeing these videos popping on, YouTube recently of ATF driving up to somebody's house.
Yep.
And just knocking on the door like, hey, we're here for this property you bought.
Mm-hmm. Unrelated,
Interesting,
but notable, they're doing the same thing with people that buy handguns. So if you've purchased 5 handguns, ATF has been going around knocking on doors saying, hey, look, this is just a friendly visit. You've broken no laws. We just want to see if you have these 5 guns that you purchased recently. First of all, where did you get that list? You're not supposed to keep a database of gun owners and what they own. That's against federal law. And number 2, why are you going to people's houses and saying, hey, just being a friendly stop by visit, show us these 5 guns and we'll be out of your hair, because we want to make sure you're not a gun runner.
Mm-hmm. Well, most of the time on any type of handguns, if you buy 2 handguns in one setting, it's a multi-sale. And there is an additional form that most folks don't even know takes place.
Right.
That gets sent to your local state police, and also one gets sent to, I want to say, the ATF.
It's an ATF form.
And it literally has all of your information on it and
Right.
the guns on it. It has it.
And that is illegal.
Mm-hmm. And that's a form that they've been doing for the longest time. The other thing that I find interesting too is there is also this program that adds to their trace program that they have of used gun reports. So FFLs have to send over if they have.
If you get like 10 traces in a year,
Mm-hmm.
now you're put on this list. And if you bring in any used gun, you have to notify.
Yep, you have to
ATF.
send them the make, model, and serial number, but no customer information.
Right.
Well, most books or whatever it is, like you've seen that video of that one, taking pictures of the bound book, right?
Yep.
Which the bound book
Completely illegal.
has everything in it. That has the acquisition, disposition of the firearms or whatever it is.
Right.
And if she's sitting there taking pictures, she sees it all.
Yeah, the 4473 form has all your info on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's supposed to be private, it's supposed to be purged, it's not supposed to be kept. But ATF started being caught red-handed keeping these lists.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in violation of federal law. And this is just a perfect example of our banana republic. These agencies do whatever they want. There's zero accountability. The Supreme Court could tell them tomorrow to quit, and they'll just continue to do it. What's the Supreme Court going to do? Fire the ATF? Put them in jail? No, there's no accountability. And so when these agents show up at your door demanding property, or in the case of demanding to see whether or not you still have these firearms, I'm not going to give legal advice. I'm not an attorney. Now, with the FRT, it's a slightly different issue than the gun running. You've bought 5 handguns. We want to see if you still have them. On the case of the 5 handguns, we want to see if you still have them. My response would be, do you have a warrant? No, this is just a door closed. Because there's nothing illegal about me having 5 handguns or 500 handguns. I can have 5 million handguns. There's no law against it. Get off my doorstep. Now with the FRT, they're threatening NFA violation. So if you don't hand over your property, now you come back with a warrant, and they're not going to be Mr. Friendly Officer anymore. Now they're going to slam you in federal prison.
Because I want to say during, any inspection, they kind of categorize things, I want to say. Like they would say the term GCA, which I believe is standing for Gun Control Act or something.
There's several.
And then they had NFA. NFA is viewed under a finer microscope than GCA, it seems like, right? So they'll sit there like, oh, that's GCA, that's NFA or whatever it is, right?
So the Gun Control Act of 34 is the NFA, right? And you had the Gun Control Act, I think, of 38, and then you had the Gun Control Act of 68. So, yeah.
Well,
there's several
I don't
gun
know which
control
one
acts.
they're referencing, right? I have no idea.
NFA.
Right?
So the FRT is under the NFA.
So they're sitting here going under so many different things that you'll hear, because during an inspection, you have the ATF basically walking through here, and they get a whole copy of your book.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
They demand it.
They demand right when they walk in the door to do any type of inspection.
First
It's
words
the
out of
first
their
word
mouth is,
mouth.
let's see your books.
Yep,
So
I'm
we can do an
so-and-so, show you the badge, and give me your books.
Yep.
And then they start going. And that's exactly how it goes. And once they have that copy of that book, they say that, nothing happens with it, but come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know. Well, it depends on the ATF agent, the office,
Exactly,
the management.
true.
So you have some that are going to do the illegal
right thing.
and you're going to have the other ones that are just going through their job and just going to go through and make sure all the documents are in order.
Yeah, and I think it does vary on location.
and this is way off in the weeds, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but right now, FFL dealers are under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of pressure. Through my friendship, with my coworkers at GOA, we know that thousands of FFLs have been revoked for things that before Biden took power were just a slap on the wrist. You would get a warning letter. You might be put on probation, maybe fined something. But now it's mandatory license revocation. Mm-hmm. And they have put thousands of FFL dealers out of business. And why is that dangerous? Because they can technically put us all out of business. And then if all FFLs go away, or let's say 90% go away, and federal law requires you have to buy a gun from a licensed dealer, what have you effectively done? You've stopped the sale of firearms. You've banned guns. Mm-hmm. And you've done it through executive fiat, no act of Congress required. And that's precisely what these administrations that are doing that are anti-gun. They are putting so much pressure on the industry and threatening them, wanting to drag them into court and do all this other stuff. Exactly what they're doing to FRT, because they want to have a chilling effect on the industry. They want to scare people not to buy guns. They want to scare people not to get their name on a list, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what this is. It's pure intimidation. And it's pure Soviet era stuff. And it's happening in America right now. And we really need to stand up to this. And again, it's probably no different than the bump stocks. Oh, the bump stocks are stupid. Yeah, I don't want one of those. It's just dumb. No, it's bigger than that. It's an agency making laws out of whole cloth and then stripping you of your rights and personal property. And they did it with the bump stocks. We sued them. We're going to the Supreme Court. That's the last stop. We filed with the Supreme Court. But the same thing they're going to do with the brace, and the same thing they're doing with the FRT trigger. It's the same thing that they did with the bump stock. And when we were telling you, it's not about the stock, stupid. It's about what they're doing and how they're doing it. Nobody listened. So they all sat around like, that's dumb. And here we are today, them using the exact same tactics on braces, on FRT triggers, on 80% lowers, on everything that's been done.
Solvent traps, everything.
Solvent traps, everything. Mm-hmm. All goes back to what we were fighting against with the bump stocks. That's why we brought the lawsuit, is because ATF was making up laws. And they can't do that, and assigning criminal penalties to it. If you have a bump stock right now, no act of Congress, and they catch you with it, you're going to prison. Mm-hmm. And it's not a machine gun.
I know.
But they say it all. Congress hasn't said anything. The Supreme Court hopefully disagrees. I mean, on our first circuit court review with the three-panel judge review, they said, yeah, no, bump stocks are not machine guns. And then the federal government took it to did an en banc review. The whole court had to vote. We missed it by one vote. And they decided it was a machine gun. Now we took it to the Supreme Court. And that's because we have activist judges. They don't care what the statute is. They don't care what the law is. They just don't like guns. So they could just say, you know what, AR-15's readily convertible, because really all you gotta do is drill one hole, or you could put a lightning link in it, and you do whatever, and you put an FRT trigger in it. They're readily convertible. So anything that loads itself is a machine gun.
Do you see where this is going yet, guys? Do you see just what you said right there?
It's not far-fetched.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You see where the circle has now come. We started with the FRT statute, whatever, talking about kind of how the ATF works with FFLs, with all this other stuff. Now that you've kind of got this picture, and what you just said right there, that last piece of, well, it's just like when we talked about foreign influence on the Second Amendment with all these switches for Glocks and whatever, right?
Right.
All this stuff pouring into areas where it's being used for high crime, and they could be like, see, readily convertible, sell it however they can. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it is. Selling this to the public, to whatever it is, and then if the public is like, no, we don't want this, we're like, well, we're going to do it anyway. It's just like right now, they don't have any particular thing on the FRT saying this is outright illegal, collect them all. They don't. No. But they're going around doing it now.
Right.
They don't have any court anything saying that this is illegal.
I think there may have been one case where the ATF actually won. I think. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. Where one guy was arrested for multiple NFA violations, and one of the devices he had, like he had illegal suppressors, illegal machine guns.
Oh, he drilled guns and all sorts of stuff.
And then he also had an FRT trigger. And so they pushed that whole package through in court with the FRT associated with all these other things. And the guy lost, and
maybe that's what they think they're running
and
on.
I think that might be their precedent. They think that they can, like, oh, we can get away with this. But I guarantee you, if they take just the FRT to court, and if you get an impartial judge that's actually doing their job, that reads the statute and tries to apply it to the FRT trigger, there's only one outcome. If you're truly objective and not an activist judge, it's not a machine gun. So we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
But we need to be vigilant about this. We can't, as gun owners, sit back and go, those FRT triggers are stupid. Anybody who bought one was a frickin' idiot anyway. Nobody needs a machine gun. It's not about need. It's not about any of that. It's about a constitutionally protected right. Mm-hmm. And they need to get their hands off our rights. Shall not be infringed. There's no room there for wiggling. It is so clearly defined. It is the only right within the Bill of Rights that is so tersely worded. Mm-hmm. Shall not be infringed means nothing. You can't do anything. You can't even put a tax on a round. The fact that we have to pay sales tax on firearms is constitutionally illegal. You can't tax a right. But we do it anyway. The Supreme Court even ruled on that. A newspaper, I think it was a newspaper like 100 years ago. The state wanted to put a 2% tax on it, went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, newspaper, freedom of speech, you can't tax a right. So they shot down the tax. Mm-hmm. Applies to guns, but yet we pay taxes on them all the time. The NFA, it's just a tax scheme. There's no such thing as an illegal machine gun except one that was made after 1986. It's just one you haven't paid taxes on. You didn't pay your $200 tax, you're going to prison for 10 years. So it's a sham, and it's a shakedown, and it's intended to put a chilling effect on the Second Amendment. It's intended to keep people from exercising their rights because people don't want to run afoul. The average American that aren't like you and I that are, hardcore 2A advocates, just the regular American, the minute you say IRS, ATF, FBI, DEA, they run scared. They don't want to interact with those agencies. They're petrified of them. Mm-hmm. And so they're just going to hand over their products. They're going to comply.
As an individual, right? At your home, sitting watching TV, and your doorbell rings, or you get a knock on the door.
And you're holding your newborn baby, and your wife's sitting next to you.
And you look out the door, and there's potentially this blacked out truck with 3, local squad cars to back them up, and there's all these people standing outside your door, and you're like,
badges, guns, lights.
What is this? Yep. And like you said, you get this big brother entity standing outside your door that is bigger than you as an individual. They have unlimited backing.
They're there to ruin your life if you don't comply.
And so it is. It's exactly that. It is frightening. It is scary. It's exactly what they want it to be.
Yep. And that's where we're at. So we're going to fight it. We have to fight it. And I hope that folks get behind the whole FRT thing. I hope they get behind the brace thing. I hope people have woken up to the realization that what we were saying years ago, it's not about the stocks. It's about what the ATF is doing and how they're doing it. It's illegal, it's unconstitutional, and it needs to be stopped. And we can stop it. It's just we got to get people active. People are sitting around doing nothing, reading about it, saying it's stupid, don't want one of those anyway, and you can't take that approach. You're going to lose everything because it's incrementalism. And they're just going to keep chipping away at our rights until there's nothing left. And then you're going to wake up and go, well, how did my AR-15 become illegal? I don't understand. We've been telling you for years how it's going to happen. You're not listening.
Yep.
Get active. Wake up. Join GOA and get politically active. Call your representatives. Do everything you can. Become a nuisance to your representatives because they do listen, especially to phone calls. I know this for a fact because I've been in D.C. and had these conversations with senators and congressmen and their chiefs of staff. Those phone calls do make a difference.
Yep.
Do it. So anyway, guys, I'm sure that you have plenty of comments about the FRT trigger situation. Feel free to make comments down below. Perhaps there's something that you'll post that will, spawn another video, a follow-up video, because many times there's things that we don't think about or consider, and you guys make really interesting comments. And that gives us ideas for future videos. So please do comment down below. If you guys would like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best possible way to do that is to become part of our Patreon family. There's a link in the video description below. I also ask you to join Gun Owners of America and get politically active. It's imperative that you become politically active, especially in today's age. And also, if you'd like to support us here on YouTube, there's a little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash that join button, and you can support us right here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. Last but not least, swing by, check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 14 years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Take care, guys.